this video I'm going to be going over the steps and things needed to do an AC system performance evaluation. If a car is in the shop or if there's a complaint that the AC isn't working, the first thing you're going to have to do is do a performance evaluation. Not only is that going to verify the complaint, but it's also give you a good idea of what's going on in the system. You're going to need a few things to do this. The first one is going to be the AC gauge set. In the previous video I went through and showed you how to hook up the gauge set, so this is just going to repeat of that. We're going to hook up the gauge set so that we can read our pressures while the system is functioning. So a working AC gauge set. An important thing we're also going to need is the service information. We're going to have to look up the system specs, the performance specs, the steps it takes or outlines for us to follow to do the performance test. You can follow a generic outline to do a performance test on any vehicle, and it most likely will be good enough. Some manufacturers will actually outline the steps they want you to take to perform the AC evaluation. I've looked up the specs for this vehicle and I now know exactly what they want me to do this AC performance check. So, service information, gauges, a thermometer. This is a dash style thermometer. This one is digital, but you could also use an analog thermometer. They come out of the case and you can put it in the center vent and get a temperature reading. Another thing we're also going to need is a fan. That's what I have right here in front of the car. When we're doing our AC performance evaluation, it's good to set up a fan and turn it on to get air flowing over the condenser to simulate road speed or driving. Sometimes the performance of the AC won't be as good if you're just sitting in a shop sitting still. So a fan can help simulate that road speed. So if we have everything we need, our gauges, our service information, a fan, and our thermometer, we're ready to hook up the gauges and start our test. Now, when you are hooking up the gauges, this is a good time to overlook the vehicle. Look at the condition of the serpentine belt. Is it good? Does it look like it's been slipping? Do you see any obvious leaks from the AC system? Any damage to any of the lines? Maybe grab your flashlight real quick and look through and see if any of the condenser looks like it's been damaged or hit with any debris while driving on the road. All this you can do while you're hooking up your gauges. So let's hook up our gauges. So I don't notice anything out of place or any obvious damage or anything that would indicate that there's a problem with the system. So now I have my gauges hooked up. I can go ahead and turn on my fan, start the car, and set the dash settings to what is outlined in the service procedure. This one specifies to have the windows open, to turn the AC to max, and to place your thermometer in the center vent. Some manufacturers will tell you to have all the windows up and closed and have the AC on recirculate, and they want you to have it running for 2 minutes or so to allow the system to equalize before you start doing any of your readings. This one did specify to let the system run for 2 minutes, but it didn't specify whether it should be on recirculate or not. So I'm going to go ahead and start the car up, and I'm going to start monitoring. I'll come back out, monitor my pressures, and I will also start to monitor the dash temperature and make sure it comes down and gets into the specification outlined in the information. But right now I'm going to take note that my high side pressure is reading somewhere around the 200 psi, and my low side is at about 47 psi. Now, with the service information, it gives a chart that outlines some of the specs. It'll give us the ambient temperature and humidity, and it'll give us the pressures that it should be, a pressure range, and a dash temperature that they want to see. So with current shop conditions, it's about 90 degrees in here right now and pretty humid. So I'm going to go over here to the chart, find my 90 degrees and my humidity level. And it says here that the low side pressure should be between 30 and 56 psi. So according to this chart, our low side pressure is good. Our high side should be between 153 and 228 psi. So again, we're within spec. Now it says the dash temperature should be below 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to go in and get a dash temperature reading, and let's see where we're at. So our dash temperature is reading at about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're well under the specified 72 degrees according to this chart. So with this setup, I'd say this system is working as designed and working normally. So this is this car manufacturer. They have their outlined performance test that they want you to follow. Some manufacturers may say to increase the RPMs of the engine up to about 1500 or 2000 RPMs. Also, again, to simulate driving. They did not specify that in the service information for this vehicle, so I didn't do it. If I was going to do this procedure on a vehicle and I did not have the service information available to me, I would increase the RPMs up to about 1500 psi and hold it for a minute or two, and then take my dash temperature reading to get the best possible performance out of the system. So again, remember, hook up your gauges, inspect the system, have your service information available, have a fan ready to go in front of the condenser to help not only to help increase the performance of the condenser, but also to help keep the car from overheating. And then your thermometer set in the dash to get your reading after about 2 minutes. So that's an AC performance test. Once I got this, I would record my pressures, I would record my dash temperature and my ambient temperature and conditions, and then you can go through with your diagnosis and try and determine what's going on. If I had abnormal pressure readings or an insufficient cooling in the car, then I could go ahead and start looking into what's going on. So we'll cover diagnostics in another video. This is just setting up and doing a performance test. So thanks, and see you next time.